Hey guys, back again with another review. This time, this movie was recommended by Alex Trender, who I call the Trender Man. And this movie is The Descent from 2005. And it was written and directed by Neil Marshall in 2005. So let's go with the cast. Okay, so here we go. Shauna McDonald, Natalie Mendoza, Alex Reid, Saskia Mulder, Mayan Berwin, Nora-Jane Noonan, Oliver Milburn. None of them matter. None of us matter because it's only really like 5 people and, well, 6 people and callers. So basically at the beginning, Sarah, who is the lead in this movie, you won't think of it through most of the movie until the end really. But she's the lead. At the beginning, they've gone walk rafting, her and her friends, and on the way home with her partner and her daughter, they crash. And the daughter and the father die. And she's really, obviously grief stricken. You don't want to go through something like that. It's really horrendously painful. Well, sometime later, they all decide they want to go caving together on a caving expedition. So they all meet up and they're driving about. They get to the place, and you get a nice bit of character development of each person. The good thing about this movie is because there's only 6 women, you kind of get some good character development, and you don't have to worry about going, who's this one, what's this one, what's that one. Like if you're watching The Godfather, you've got like probably about 50 characters, not all major, but you want to know them all, and you want to kind of get to know them so that you can talk about them and describe them. In this movie, you only have to worry about the 6 women, to be honest. So you've got Sarah, Juno, Beth, Rebecca, Sam, and Holly. So they're all talking, all having a laugh, doing what women do, joking about, whatnot. The next day, they go to the cave. And on their way to go there, Juno, who's got the map of the cave, decides to throw the map back into the car. Now the question is about that is why would she do that? Why? Why wouldn't you have a map of a cave? So as they're walking along, they find dead animals that look like they've been eaten a bit. And they're like, who did this? Who killed this deer? Who killed this? And they're like, oh, it's just wildlife. And we're all thinking back at home, is something crawling about? Is there something going on? So they get to the cave and they realise that it's really long down. So they basically get inside, and that's where I started feeling very claustrophobic. I had the light off, and I was like, I don't like claustrophobic places. Maybe it's because I'm a big guy. I'm tall, a little bit of weight, but mostly tall. And to me, I've always had a claustrophobic problem. So this movie is probably a lot better for me in the kind of scary, kind of, creepy kind of sense. So they're going around, and they basically go through this little tunnel area. And it's like there's this gap between the rocks where they've got to crawl through. And it's just it looks so tight. It's like this. If like my head's like this, it's like, it's just so creepy. I'm sitting there going, oh, please don't get stuck. Please don't get stuck. Please, please don't get stuck. So they're going through it one by one, and each one's like closer and closer, like, and I'm like, oh. Yeah, I don't get that often, but with this I did. Oh. So finally, Sarah goes through and she gets stuck. Yep, she gets stuck. That's the point where I turn my head and I go like this. Because I was like, oh no. Because the whole idea of it just creeps me the hell out. That's probably more scary to me than something like Halloween or Friday the 13th or some ghosts or whatever. So it's perfect movie for me to start off with. So she gets stuck in there. Beth goes back and kind of helps her through. Look, you've been through a lot worse than this, Sarah. You need to brave. And eventually Sarah comes out and some of the stuff falls down. The rocks. blocks them in. Now, what gets me about that area is before they go through that bit, they've got to go through a little bit of rock, and then they go into water. God knows what's in that water. Then they go through that bit, and that's where Sarah got stuck. So it's like through, down, up, stuck, you know? And it gets tighter and tighter. I'm thinking, why would they go through there? Why would anyone want to go through somewhere underground when no one else knows they're there? So they're going through, and they get there. And they say to Juno, where's the maps? And she goes, I ain't got it. And they're obviously really upset about it. So they're moving about like you would, and Holly ends up getting hurt. She falls down and gets hurt. Basically, Juno grabs hold of her, I think it's Juno, grabs hold of her and accidentally drops her. And she hurts her leg really badly. So a little while forward, so skipping a little bit forward, they're in this area. And all of a sudden they can hear things moving about. And you're like, what is it? What is moving? What is moving about? And you can see like these things running across the floor and up behind them and all this. And you're like, oh, it's a mime act. But it's not mime act, it's these creatures. But my only thing I could say they look like is part human and part dog, part blind. Like their faces are like human, but they've got like this really dog kind of bit there. It's hard to explain. You'll know if you see the movie or you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. So they're jumping about, they grab hold of Holly, and it kills her. One of them kills her. Well, Juno wants that body, and the crawler is pulling it, like, and she won't let go of it. It's like, give it back. It goes, rah, and then tries to pull it off, you know, and all that. And Juno basically hits it, because they all scatter, like they're all running away. And Juno's fighting this one, and basically kills it. And another one jumps on her, and she basically kills that one, another one pulls the body away. Yeah. And then just as she hears something come behind her, she swings it round and she kills Beth right in the neck. And Beth looks a lot and pulls like a necklace thing off, or a pendant thing. And what gets me with Beth is, you got to be honest on this, she wouldn't be alive in a minute. I'll tell you about what happens in a minute. This review may contain spoilers. It will. So basically, they've all run away. They've all separated. You've got Sarah on her own. You've got Beth, who's just got killed by Juno, and you've got Rebecca, Sam, and they're in their own area, but they've run away. And Juno feels really bad. You can see it in her eyes when she kills Beth. So she ends up catching up with Rebecca and Sam. And they end up teaming together. And Sarah's like this with a camera, like this, stands still, and she's watching these crawlers eating her friend. Ugh. Dead. So she's watching that, and Juno, Rebecca, and Sam, they're basically going around. And I gotta be honest, I gotta say this. I like to say I gotta be honest for some reason. I gotta say this. The lighting in this movie is amazing. It's perfect. There's parts of it that remind me of Suspiria with the green and the red. There's parts of it where it just looks so perfectly dark but light in there. Great. It's fantastic. The lighting is amazing in this movie. So basically, who was it? Sam. Sam tries to jump up and get onto the thing. But one of the crawlers kills her, another one pulls Rebecca. So Juno jumps and she lands in the water. And you've got Sarah who's going along trying to escape, right? And this is in a different area. And all of a sudden she hears something, and it's Beth. She's like under a carcass. Really creepy. The fact that Beth was still alive was just so creepy. And the fact that she could talk with a big hole in her neck. Oh no. What's it? Do that with it to make. It was like, wow. And then Sarah just bashes her head in to save her from the pain. And you're just like, oh. So then Sarah's walking along trying to thingy, and she kills one of the crawlers. And then there's this female one that jumps on her, and she ends up in this pool of blood. That's all it can be described as, a pool of blood, and she ends up underneath the water. Well, the blood water. And she comes up, and all I could think of was Ursula Andress in Doctor No. You know, she comes out of the water. That's what it was like, except it was like Carrie style. You know. And it was so creepy. And then the crawler jumps out of the water, and they have this fight in the water. And you sit there going, oh no, Sarah, please don't die. Don't die. Don't die. I want you to live. I want you to live. Come on, live. And she gets the thing and shoves it in the crawler's eye and kills it. And you're like, yeah. And then afterwards, she stands up. No, hold on. After that, she crawls up. And one of the crawlers stands right on top of her, basically, one foot on her head, while looking around, like, because they're blind and they can only tell by sound. That's how they can tell where you are, by sound. So obviously, she's not making any sound, so they can't find it. Now, I would wonder about smell, but that's a different subject. So it's sitting on her, and she's like this. And it moves. And then she stands up, and it's like, and you're like, yeah. And that's one of the things I liked in this movie as well. All the women are kick ass. Well, the top ones anyway. Like, yeah, come on, you. It was awesome. So she goes walking along, and then as Juno comes up from the water, here comes Sarah. And she goes, hello, where's Rebecca and Sam? And she goes, they didn't make it. And then the interesting part happens. Sarah says to Juno, what about Beth? And Juno goes, and she went, did you see her die? And Juno goes, and Sarah's face goes like this. And you know she's angry for me. You just know. And she goes, come on then, let's go. So they're going along, and then they get to this point where there's 3 crawlers. And they get in this big fight with them, and they beat them. And Juno gets up, and Sarah's looking at her, and it's just so dark. She's looking at her like this. And she drops like the pendant while it's in her hand. So Juno sees it. And they then hear more crawlers. And Juno turns around, and as she looks back, Sarah's going like this. And being a hard-ass biatch, she got her right in the leg so that she'd feel every part of that agony from the crawlers. Yeah, that's what I like to say. Woohoo, I was cheering Sarah on the whole time. Yeah, Sarah, 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 yeah. That's what it's like. So Sarah then looks at her and just runs off. And Juno pulls the thing out of her leg. I think it's a miner's axe. I don't know what you call it. No, it can't be. The thing that they put on the ice and on the, you know, rock climbing, rock climbing thing. I don't know what you call it. I think it's a rock climbing axe or something. You guys know what it is. I'm stupid. I apologise. And and she pulls it out of her leg. She's like, oh, and then she turns around because she's like, I'll kill them and get out. And as she looks up, this is CGI, this bit, it's obvious. There's loads of them on the wall. You can tell it's CGI because the Blu-ray's obvious, it shows you. So you're like, uh-oh, and then you hear her screaming, and you see Sarah running, and as Sarah runs, she falls, and she holds on and basically slides down and knocks herself out. You then see her get up, and there's this light. And to me, it was like she was looking at the stairway of salvation, like the light of the heavens shining down, because that's what it looked like. There were all these bones leading up to it, but it looked like the light was like a stairway going down, which was another beautiful light effect. So she runs up them, she gets outside, she runs to the car, she pulls over when she drives off because she has to be sick. And when she looks back, there's Juno's dead corpse, basically, you know, like a ghost kind of thing. And then she actually wakes up, and she didn't get away, but she sees her daughter Jessica with a birthday cake. And then as it pulls away, scans away, Jessica's not there anymore. And it's just a little bit of fire on the stick thing, on the torch. And you hear all these night crawlers in the background, and you see this hole in the thing, like it's coming out, and that's like a little room kind of hole thing. It's very creepy. And that's the ending of that movie. Now, going into it, I thought, you know what, I don't expect much. It's a British film. Don't expect anything. Is it going to be like a Danny Dyer film? As much as I like Danny Dyer, they're not the best. But boy, oh boy, was this film fantastic. I tell you, the director knew what he was doing. It was well written, and it was well directed. The lighting was perfect, like I said. And what I liked about this was the women weren't weak by any means. They were strong. They were fighters. And all I kept thinking through this movie was, if they'd have made Tomb Raider properly, it would have been just like this, except it would have been with her going through like the caves looking for something like a relic or something, and you could have had the crawlers in it. This would have been like a perfect Tomb Raider movie. Just change it up a little bit, and it would have worked perfectly. And all I kept saying when I looked at Juno and Sarah was, this is like Tomb Raider, you know, the ending parts, the last 20 odd minutes. And it was just great. The acting was fantastic. The characters were great. The development was awesome. The movie just is one you have to see. If you haven't ever seen it, you have to see it. Now, there is a Descendant Part 2, and not Descendant, The Descent 2. And I'm going to watch that either tonight or tomorrow now. But sadly I've heard it's nowhere as good. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to watch it, because I've reviewed a lot of rubbish movies. But going back to this movie, I will say this. When the movie started, I was like, wow, this is pretty big. When the thing come through the windscreen and killed the dad, and you find the daughter died, I was like, oh. I was like, we've got a troubled past. And the one thing I did like about this movie was it didn't have one of those endings where a man came in and saved them at the end, like a ranger or whatnot. It was all about the women. It was all about their relationships with each other. It was all about them growing each moment. Like, there's this real creepy scene with Rebecca and Sam where they're on the floor and like in the cave, and they're hugging, kind of like to curl up to be quiet. And earlier Sam said her boyfriend bought her a watch. And I don't know, I think it was Juno, or was it Holly? It was one of them who said they would have dumped their boyfriend if they'd got that watch from them. Now, that watch came into effect later when the alarm on it went off, and it almost got the crawlers to come and kill them. So that was pretty good development on the watch. I really liked that they used that. It was great, because sometimes in horror films they bring something up and it just goes dead. Do you know what I mean? So if I had to rate this movie right now, I'd give it a 5. Because it was highly enjoyable. It was very thrilling. It was exciting. It was a fantastic adventure into the caves. And it was really, really horrific. The horror was fantastic. Now, the horrific parts for me didn't involve the creatures in a lot of cases. It was the claustrophobicness. The fact that they were stuck in the cave, and they also had to deal with the creatures, and they couldn't get out. You see? And that was what made it even better. And the fact that in the end, Sarah was nowhere close to getting out, and we saw it pan away from her with her actually still there, not getting a happy ending, was even more scary, in my view. Then the whole, oh, I escaped, I got out, oh, it's the end, thank God. It made it so much better. So my final notes are, if you haven't seen the film, pick it up. You're missing out. If you have seen the film, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think of the film. Please, I'd appreciate it if you did, because I want to know your thoughts. And if you haven't, please subscribe. And once again, thanks for watching. And yeah, buy or rent the movie because it's awesome. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.